van de manier waarbij keer op keer jij in een aansluitende bank gooien.
En wat hier staat is nog maar een beetje, want er stopt nog 25 km file achter.
In deze aardloze tijd.
I'd like to highlight a World Economic Forum initiative in this regard, the World Economic Forum Food Innovation Hubs.
Hello everybody, my name is Marcel Irnie and this is IrnieracingNews, July 12th, 2022. And we are going to talk about the farmers' protests in the Netherlands, the Dutch farmers' protests. Hopefully many of you are aware of what's going on, but if you're not, I'm going to go through the details, try to make sure everybody's informed, show you all the footage from the Netherlands. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Starten wir den Solidaritätsautokurs in Paderborn für die Landwirte in Holland und für die Landwirte natürlich auch hier in OWL und in Deutschland.
Dovreste venire tutti con noi perché mancherà il pane sulla tavola in queste condizioni. Non ce la facciamo più. Kijk of je dit gaat voorspelen. Nee joh.
The Netherlands Prime Minister Mark Rutte, or Rutte, R-U-T-T-E, said from a NATO summit in Madrid, Spain. So here you have him flying to Spain on his private jet, and he's telling his citizens who are protesting, you can demonstrate, but in a civilized way. Now, Mark Rutte is a WEF puppet, the World Economic Forum puppet, just like Canada's Trudeau.
It's me. I'm here. Yeah, perfect.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome at this press conference. We'll start with brief statements, starting with Prime Minister Rutte.
Good afternoon, and let me say it is a real honor to welcome Justin Trudeau today and speak with him in the run-up to the crucial summits in Rome next weekend and Glasgow on Monday and Tuesday, and of course then continuing after that.
Now, Mark Rutte is a WEF puppet, the World Economic Forum puppet, just like Canada's Trudeau, Italy's Mario Draghi, Britain's now resigned Boris Johnson, France's President Emmanuel Macron, and USA President Joe Biden. These guys are all part of the agenda of WEF and the narrative that we've been seeing on for the last 2 years. And this narrative is not going to end, guys. They're pushing for their long-term goal of suppression and making food shortages, making us lose our land. They're going to take our land and just essentially break down society. This is what I see is happening. They're going to break down society so they can pick up the pieces of everybody and make us all easy slaves. So again, what is Mark Rutte's and these WEF puppets, what is his end game with shutting down the farmers' businesses?
Klaus, thank you so much for bestowing on me one of the Global Citizens Awards for 2019.
You know, what is he doing with the WEF's long-term goal with this land stolen from farmers, disrupting the food supply? Why?
So the role of businesses in the agri-food sector should be stimulated and able to create scalable solutions. And here I'd like to highlight a World Economic Forum initiative in this regard, the World Economic Forum Food Innovation Hubs. And these hubs in Africa, in Asia, in South America and in Europe will allow businesses to connect regional stakeholders to skill innovations, because this is key, skill innovations that can address food systems challenges. And here I'm particularly proud to announce that the Netherlands will host the global coordinating secretariat of the World Economic Forum Food Innovation Hubs, which will connect all other food innovation hubs. And I believe this is important because it will be facilitating to create the partnerships we need.
So what is the farmers' protest about from different perspectives? Christian van der Wal, cabinet minister in the Netherlands, overseeing the reform to curb pollution, says it's about slashing emissions by farmers for the WEF 2030 agenda. So the 2030 agenda is also the EU regulations on nitrate pollution. So the Dutch cabinet announced plans to cut the nitrogen emissions by 50% by 2030, again the 2030, to comply with the EU regulations on nitrate pollution. In some areas, emissions cuts of 70% or more may be required. So essentially, farmers, 70% of them are not, 70% of what they're doing is gone. And we all know profit margins are very small, certainly for farmers.
Wat hier staat is nog maar een beetje, want er stond nog 25 kilometer file aan. Nou, we zijn er na 5 uur rijden vanaf Drijper. Of nee, wat was het? Pessen.
So when a family farm is selling a couple $1 million or $1 million and they're pulling in $100,000 to $200,000, if you cut their business by 70%, they go, there is no business. You're out of business. Now, what's really cool with the protests is it's really picking up momentum. It's not just like Canada's Freedom Convoy, but I think it's doing better. It has a great start. We just need to make sure everybody knows about it. So now, in a show of solidarity, Germany, Italian, Spanish, and Polish farmers have launched protests as well, in what is becoming a EU-wide campaign against anti-farming policies. So they see it coming for them as well, and it's coming for all of us, guys. Look at the chicken bullshit, look at the pig bullshit. We can't even get into that, obviously, not on the censor tube.
Farmers, freedom! Truckers, farmers, freedom! Truckers, farmers, freedom! Truckers, farmers, freedom! Truckers, farmers!
The farmers fear they could be next and that their governments will seek to impose similar climate policies to comply with the EU rules, which they say would threaten their livelihoods and disrupt global food supplies. So on Wednesday, July 6th, the German farmers joined their fellow Dutch farmers to block roads into the city of Herrenberg on the Dutch-German border.
Jetzt starten wir den Solidaritätsautokurs in Paderborn für die Landwirte in Holland und für die Landwirte natürlich auch hier in OWL und in Deutschland. Und neben mir sitzt Karl Philipp Meyer und der wird jetzt noch ein paar Worte zu den Landwirten sagen.
In Italy, farmers have held tractor protests on roads in rural areas and have threatened to take their protests to the streets of Rome. And now also there's some fire going on in Rome, which I have no answers for, a giant fire, so that's something to note as well.
Dovreste venire tutti con noi, perché mancherà il pane sulla tavola a queste condizioni. Non ce la facciamo più! Non ce la facciamo più, dovreste essere con noi! A Roma, sì, a Roma dobbiamo andare! A Roma, perché non è più possibile!
A video on social media shows dozens of tractors gathering on a rural road, narrated by one farmer shouting, "We are not slaves, we are farmers, we cannot make ends meet." In Poland, thousands of farmers held a protest in Warsaw carrying anti-government banners and place cards. They shouted, "Enough is enough. We won't let ourselves be robbed. And we workers cannot pay for the crisis created by politicians." And that is a very great statement, because all crisis of all time is done by politicians. Everything is, you cannot believe anything a politician says. It's always a narrative for them to make money, for their buddies to make money, or to pass money along to somebody else. They're all working in cahoots. I mean, we can't even get in. Let's get into all wars of history, right down to World War II. What about the Iraq War? What about Afghanistan? You know, what about all the countries like Yemen and all these other things you never heard of? You know, I can't even say the other word, the U.E war or narrative, what's going on right now with, Buddy. We can't even talk about this on YouTube, and that's how censored this shit is. It's always a political narrative. People always die for a politician's narrative. If you don't understand this, you need to start thinking very clearly. There is no war that was not done on politics. And the politicians aren't at the front of the line dying either. On July 1st, Spanish farmers blocked the A4 highway in Jaén, Andalusia, to protest against the rising cost of fuel and essential products. On Twitter, a French account called Le Convoy de la Liberté, the Freedom Convoy, tweeted, "German farmers are also rising up. Dutch, Italian, Polish, and German. It becomes a worldwide movement." All right, let's get into some stuff. Netherlands government has put forward proposals which would enforce cuts in nitrogen and ammonia emissions of 50% nationwide by 2030. So we're just kind of summarizing here. In some areas close to nature-sensitive sites, cuts of 75 to 95% will be imposed, which would make it hard for any farming, organic, anything. 95% cut. Yeah. Why don't we just cut the politicians, and then we'll all of a sudden have sovereignty. It'll be great. If the legislation clears Parliament, regional authorities would then have 12 months to come up with proposals to meet these new targets. While plans are not yet fully developed, the government has outlined 5 basic options for the farming sector. And so the last point is the most important one, and which is the ultimate goal of land. Invest in technology, achieve cleaner livestock housing in 12 months. Yeah, right. They haven't been able to cure cancer in 25 years of fundraising because they don't want to. It's got technology, that's just bullshit. Number one's bullshit. Move to more circular agriculture, reduced stocking rates. Circular agriculture, I don't know what that means. Adjust the business model with mandatory livestock regulations. So again, you're only allowed to have 10, 15, 20% of the livestock that you had. So your farm, your size of your land, you don't need your land. Accept the funding to relocate farm business to new areas. We're buying your land. Get the hell out. Or the final one, which all those lead to, face mandatory purchases of farms leading to closures. Again, this is what the WEF, this is what Bill Gates, these evil agendas want. They want all the land. They want to congregate people into small cities, infrastructures where you can be easily controlled digitally. This has left Dutch farmers facing great uncertainty and angry with a government that had traditionally been supportive of the industry and expansion. I'm going to jump ahead here. So if you don't know much about the Netherlands, they are a very large food producer. In fact, they're the second largest food exporter in the world. $79 billion in food exports annually. The Netherlands specializes in flowers, live plants, vegetables, that's the big one, like tomatoes and chilies. The Dutch Farm Union, LTO, estimates that such measures could force 30% of farms out of business by 2030. It argues that the money earmarked for compulsory purchases would be better spent investing in technology or managing a more gradual scaling down of certain enterprises. There is currently an impasse between the unions and the government, although the expectation is that the proposals would have to be reconsidered. Again, face mandatory purchases of farms, leading to closures. That's the big ticket item here that sounds to me. We all know Bill Gates is buying up farmland around the world. He's actually, I think he's the largest land owner of agriculture in the world. We know land is a key resource to any country and or group's success. And what is the best way to buy up people's lands? Force the sale of it, devalue the land, and give them options. Sell it to us at this reasonable price, or we will take it. We will arrest you. We will force you off your land. We will set fire to it, whatever. Some farmers would adopt and become slaves of the narrative, while the rest who don't comply will be on the streets. This will be a fire sale. If I look at the population of the Netherlands, it's under 20 million. To be more exact, it's 17.4 million measured in 2022, according to whatever source you can search. Now, the coal energy producing countries of the world make up a far larger and impactful number for the environmental concerns that follow the WEF anarchy. Like example, the third world countries have over 5 billion humans, and they're all burning coal, dirty fuels. And they're selling that dirty fuel to the USA and Canada and Europe. How ironic, eh? The farmers' protest is taking an educated stance with their protests. It's really nice to see how they're organizing. They're blocking a lot of stuff. All facilities vital to the Kingdom of the Netherlands supply chains. You know, government facilities, the borders with countries, the ports at the sea, we're going to get into that, roads, public transportation. Now at the sea, the Dutch Fishermen Union, the EMK, announced and joined in the past the farmers' protests. So now the boats are blocking the water ports, such as Limdwingen and Harlington and Lauwenzog. I don't know how to say these names. Also, the Dutch firefighters have joined the protest, and there's some video of it. Now, on another note, which we've seen all over the world with coups, wars, politics, the FBI, farmers caught Dutch police units disguising themselves as farmers to infiltrate the protests. Oh, we saw this in Canada too. We've seen this in all conflicts across all humanity, probably. And in recent times, all political instigated wars. You know, if you don't know what the 2014 coup was in that country, NE, you know, look at that one. We all know the FBI was involved. The FBI infiltrates, of course, the FBI infiltration, of course, is a popular term these days, and we can think back to some January date, but we can't get into details on this censor book, or this video will not exist in its entirety. Now, I don't know exactly what to make of the video clips of the police in regular clothes. There's a few angles. It's kind of confusing what's going on. We see they're in regular clothes, and then they're retreating with batons, saying, get away from us, and they get into the police vehicle and get away.
Das ist ein sogenanntes Romeo-Auto. Romeo, Agent, Provokateur. Die Leute, die dann Tralala machen sollen. Und da, so, und da sehen wir das.
But it's certainly something to take note of. Tactics used to initiate a heavy-handed government response is a popular one. We've seen this, and with fake media, propaganda. No, they threw a bicycle at the horse. Those weren't UN soldiers. Who knows, right? But it doesn't matter. All is evil. All is bad. We must all understand the police, aka politicians, are up to no good. Most often, it's best just to assume all truths are lies, and anything that makes common sense often is the best sense. This is Marcel Irnie with Irnieracing News. Be well, farm on. But wait, there's more. I totally forgot to mention there is video footage of the police shooting at a farmer's tractor with his handgun. Let's check it out.
Blijf filmen. Kijk, deze gaat voorspelen.